Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This video is part 2 of what I wore on a recent trip to Japan. And I realized I had to split this into 2 videos when I started filming the first video, and I was just watching it get longer and longer and longer on my camera, and I was like, okay, I don't think my audience is going to want to sit through like an hour and a half long video, so I have split it up. If you want to see part 1, I will leave it linked above and below. In part 1, I give my like high level tips of what I recommend thinking about and packing and dressing like when going to Japan, because it does have a very specific culture that's all about respect and modesty. So I do think it's important to be cognizant of that, because I think, especially as Americans, we kind of think of Japan in a very different way than it actually is to most people that are there. And so do just want to call that out. I will also do like a little reel about it as well, or a YouTube short, which I will leave linked above and below if you want to check that out. But this video picks up where we left off. Our final day in Tokyo, I'm going to highlight 2 outfits because we had a really special event that night, or moment that night, I should say, that I want to call out. But the last kind of day in Tokyo was really great. We went to Cafe Gitan, which is somewhere I go into in New York all the time. So you might be like, why would you go to that in Tokyo? But I just wanted to see it. I wanted to go to Gitan in Tokyo, and it was fantastic. And it was so cool to see, you know, there's a lot of like New York establishments. There's like a Barney's in Tokyo. There's a Dean and DeLuca in Tokyo. So you'll see a lot of like ghosts of New York past. And there's a Bubby's. Like there's all these famous New York restaurants in Tokyo, which I found to be really, really funny. So anyway, we went to Cafe Gitan there, and that was really great. We went to the Kengo Kuma Museum, which is called the Nezo Museum, which has more traditional Japanese like screen paintings and ceramics and whatnot, and this really gorgeous garden in the back. So even if you're not into museums, this is a great one to visit because you get a little bit of history, but then you can go have tea and like wander through the garden. And I call it the Kengo Kuma Museum because he designed the garden as well as the building, but it's really called the Nezo Museum. And then we also walked around the Imperial Park, which thank God I was wearing Birkenstocks because that park is massive and there was a lot to see. We walked so much, but the plants and the way that it's maintained, it's just so stunningly beautiful. And then, yeah, I went to the Museum of Modern Art, Tokyo. And so for this day, daytime, I wore just a big old white oversized t-shirt. That's another tip. I'm just going to sprinkle these tips in as they come to me, but that's why I need to do a designated video on this, because I have quite a few that, again, are not specific to Japan, but just travel in general. So I always pack a ton of t-shirts because when I'm out and about and I sweat, it's a great way to just swap it out and not, you know, you're not really doing laundry and stuff on a vacay, most likely. So I switched out what normally would have been a black t-shirt for a nice big oversized white t-shirt that I have on here. And then again, the black barrel jeans, which were super popular for me. These are from H&M. If they're not available, which I don't think they are, I think they sold out pretty fast, I'll leave a similar one linked below. Again, that alpaca cardigan. I loved the contrast of wearing this with the white t-shirt, actually even more than the black t-shirt. I just love that. Similarly, I sometimes will wear like a big V-neck oversized Mongolian cashmere sweater from Quince, and it has that kind of nice contrasting effect as well. And then I wore my little black polo socks that I love so much with my black Birkenstocks, and then the Row bag. And this was just such a great like casual to walk through the park, but also formal enough to like go in a museum and feel appropriate. So yeah, this was such a good outfit. And then at nighttime, we got so incredibly lucky because we had been asking for months to be put on the wait list to be able to go to this restaurant called Ma's, which is a Japanese Peruvian fusion restaurant. It is the sister restaurant to Central in Peru, if you're familiar with that, with the famous chef Vigilio Martinez. And the chef in the Japan restaurant is named Santiago Fernandez. He's phenomenal. He's like 30 years old, which is crazy. He's very young, super talented. Hands down, one of the best dining experiences of my life. And so it's a 2-star Michelin restaurant. Again, this is our honeymoon, so we really went all out, but the most incredible experience. And so I'm so happy that I was able to wear this incredible outfit. I wore this Rick Owens wool dress that I got off of the RealReal. I was so obsessed with this. Again, I'll try to link some similar ones that are available, but it's such a great way to get a very special piece from Rick Owens at like a fraction of the price. I loved the architecturalness of this. It was so incredibly comfortable, but also so beautiful, and I just felt like $1,000,000 wearing this dress, even though it was only 300. Oh, it's such an amazing dress. And then I wore it with my pointy black flattered shoes that I talked about in my flattered video, which I just thought were a nice kind of more simple but still modern complement to the architecturalness of the dress. And then I wore my flattered bag with it. So this was, yeah, kind of the full outfit, but I felt, and we took a picture with the chef and stuff afterwards, which was great. So I don't know, I felt so cool and so beautiful. This was just, it's always amazing to have a special, you know, experience like this, but then to be able to have such a special outfit just made the night. How many times can I say special? Even more special. So that was incredible. And yeah, so then I'm gonna skip to Kyoto. On our Kyoto leg, we actually, well, we took the speed train, which is always a joy. Like the train, I mean, everything in Japan is magical and orderly and like well taken care of. But the trains are phenomenal. And again, this was our honeymoon for people that don't know. And so we really went all out. So we did splurge for first class and it was very nice. They had a little seat, little footrest and all that, which, yeah, was just phenomenal. So we went to Kyoto where we had a really incredible experience. To my husband's credit, he was like, I want to stay in a Ryokan. And I was like, what is that? And he was like, it's a traditional Japanese hotel where they have the differences from like a, you know, a regular hotel or American hotel is they have the Japanese like rice paper screens. They have the tatami mats that they put out at nighttime. So you walk in, like for example, we walked in and there's no bed. It's just like a table and there's a bathroom and there's kind of a little sitting area. And so for most hotels, you'd be like, okay, where's my bed? But at nighttime, while you're having dinner, so you have breakfast and dinner. You don't have to, but we did, and it was magical. And I highly recommend it if you are staying in a ryokan to have breakfast and dinner at the hotel, because while you're having your meal, they will go in and then either put your bedding out for you so it's all ready for you after dinner, or they'll put it away if it's morning time. So that was amazing. I will leave the ryokan that we stayed at. It was phenomenal and so beautiful. It was right next to this very famous shrine, which you would never have known because it was like off of this very busy street, but it was so quiet and peaceful, and yeah, it was really cool. So that brings me actually to my first outfit that I want to call out. So the Ryokan provided you with a very traditional outfit, which was so much fun because you could wear it to the spa and then you also wore it to breakfast and dinner. So they provided us with these traditional robes, which I wanted to call out and show. They were so beautiful. So you would wear the robe over just, you know, your undergarments and stuff, and then you would tie the thing, and then over, and I'm just not even calling out all the specifics, but I'll leave more information about it linked below. But then you put the little jacket over the top, which I loved, and then they gave you the traditional Tabi socks, which Margiela did appropriate in 1989, and it's now very synonymous with the Margiela brand. But these are actually from Japan. Having a tabi sock is part of the like ancient Japanese dress, and so it comes from Japan. So they give you the tabi socks, and then you have the traditional little flip-flop wooden shoes that you would wear throughout the hotel. So you'd wear the robe down, take off the shoes, go, and you'd have dinner in the traditional kind of sunken manner where like your feet go. Again, I'm not explaining this well, but I promise I'm including visuals or video or something so you know what I'm talking about. But it was phenomenal, and it honestly was such a highlight of the trip to just really immerse ourselves in the culture like that. So one of my favorite outfits, also incredibly comfortable. Loved wearing this to eat in, so freaking comfortable. Loved wearing this down to the spa. They had an incredible spa where it was separated by sex, and you would go in Also, the other great thing about this Ryokan and most Ryokans is that they're very small. So while they're hard to get into in terms of booking, this one only had 8 rooms. It's very private. So every time I would go to the spa, which I went 3 times and we stayed there a day and a half. So every time I went, which was basically every morning and night, I had it all to myself. And so you rinse off, you get ready, you get in the warm bath, hang out with the yuzus. It was phenomenal. So I absolutely love that. We also saw all of the really famous, or a lot of the really famous shrines and temples, and we saw the bamboo forest. And so to walk around in the forest and go to all the shrines, I wore my cream barrel pants as well. And this was actually my first mistake. So when we arrived in Kyoto, this is what I wore on the train, which you would have already seen. And then we dropped our luggage off at the hotel, but they weren't ready for us. And so, which we knew was going to be the case. And then we just hit the ground running and went to a couple shrines. Well, I am a dummy, and even though I know, because I had been in Japan for 5 days at this point and had already been taking my shoes on and off all the time, and I mentioned this in my first video, but always make sure you have socks on you, especially when you're going somewhere like Kyoto where there's like thousands of shrines. I think there's like 3,000 shrines or something in Kyoto. So me, being a dummy, I wore my flattered shoes, which I am obsessed with, and they're so comfortable, and I actually prefer to wear them without socks, but I wore this on the train, and then forgetting we were just going straight to shrines. I did not have socks on me, in my purse, on my body, nothing. And so I ended up not actually even going into a couple of shrines, but I learned my lesson the hard way. So the first day, and what I wore on the plane was just my cream barrel pants, my flattered loafers, and then a black t-shirt, and just my big, thick COS chunky sweater, because again, if I'm wearing it, I don't have to pack it, which is great. And it was also just very, very comfortable and appropriate for, being on the train, but then also going into these like religious centers. I wasn't really exposing too much skin or anything like that. So yeah, that was pretty great. And then the next day in Kyoto, which is where we went to again, all the bamboo forest, more shrines. We went to this amazing moss garden called the Goji Temple, and it had like 20 different kinds of moss that were, and it sounds so underwhelming, but it was honestly one of the most beautiful temples that we went to. I just re-wore the outfit that I wore on the flight. So I wore little cotton pants from Flattered, black Birkenstocks, socks because I learned my lesson. I wore just a black t-shirt and then my COS sweater. So nothing particularly interesting about this outfit, but it was great for Kyoto because it was a little bit cooler in Kyoto, especially in the morning and at nighttime. As you'll see in the videos, I'm wearing the sweater a lot because even though we are walking, it is quite cool. As it got warmer throughout the day, I took the sweater off and then threw it around my shoulders, and we had a really incredible lunch of soba noodles right by the river, which was so, so, so beautiful. And we also went to this great coffee place called Weekenders Coffee, which was fun. So we really tried to just make the most of our time in Kyoto, even though we were only there for like a day and a half. So once we left Kyoto, we headed to Naoshima, which a lot of people will call like the art island of Japan. And it's also very close to Teshima, which is another famous kind of art island. And I had never been there. Of course, my husband had never been to Japan, so he had never been there. So we really had no idea what to expect. We took the train, the speed train. Actually, we took 2 trains down, and then ended up taking a ferry over, which was such a cool way to come to the island because it's on the ocean and the water is so beautiful, and it just felt, yeah, so immersive and just such a cool way to arrive at this really, really magical place. And that's actually one regret I have from our trip. Not that we could have done anything differently really with our vacation, time off from work and stuff that we had, but I wish we could have spent more time on Naoshima because it was so incredible. There are so many amazing things to see on the island in terms of art and whatnot. And so while I think we did the best that we could, fitting as much in as possible to the short amount of time that we were there, there was just so, so, so much more to see. But I also love that this kind of was the bookend, like the very last part of our trip, because it was just the most magical way to end the trip. We were very fortunate to get a spot at the Benesse House Museum, which is what it sounds like. So it's a museum that was designed by, again, Tadao Ando. So if you're not familiar, my husband and I, we actually got married in Puerto Escondido at a Tadao Ando space called Kasawabi, which is an art residency and a foundation, and it's truly magical. I will leave info about that below, but we are just huge fans of Tadao Ando. So we were joking that our life has just become one large Tadao Ando pilgrimage at this point, and this honeymoon was certainly no exception. And so ending at this museum, being able to stay in a place that he designed like that was just cherry on the sundae of really the last kind of 3 or 4 months of our lives. And so, so we took the boat over, dropped the luggage off, actually didn't even really go into the hotel because we needed to go to a couple museums because it was a Sunday that were not going to be open on Monday, basically. So that we were there on a Sunday and a Monday. So we stayed 2 nights at the hotel, and then we were there for like basically 1 full day and then 2 half days. And so we dropped the luggage off, went straight to the Chichu Art Museum, which was also designed by Tadao Ando and features works really from 3 main artists. Some of you definitely probably heard of, like James Turrell or Claude Monet. And so this was, it was so, so, so beautiful. Oh my God. And I'm wearing honestly what I wore on the train, because again, we didn't have any time to lose in terms of changing at the hotel. Our rooms weren't even ready when we got there. So I'm wearing these cream barrel jeans, again from H&M, that I love, and a white oversized t-shirt, my big chunky COS sweater that I love so much, and then socks and my little, I think it's so funny because I was like, I'm gonna wear socks because I was so paranoid after Kyoto, but I really didn't need to take my shoes off. I took my shoes off once in the Chichu Art Museum for the James Turrell stuff, so I guess I did need the socks. I take that back. But I wore my flattered loafers, the Bon Bon loafers, which I absolutely adore, in black, and then my Row bag. And then another item that I wore throughout my whole trip that I'm going to talk more about in a later video is actually my Meta Ray-Bans. I got these before the trip. They were a gift from my husband, and I am obsessed with these. Again, this is not sponsored or anything. I just wanted to give them a shout out. Especially, this isn't bad, but like a lot of the places you weren't allowed to take photo or video. And so they would these would enable me to take like little secret videos and photos and stuff. And so I am very grateful. And it was also just in general, very easy to just take a quick picture or video with the Ray-Ban without having to like pull my phone out of my pocket every time and try to take footage that way. And so I loved the Ray-Bans. I also love how they look exactly like Ray-Bans. So frankly, I wore these sunglasses like the whole trip. They were my absolute favorite for the trip. So wore these to the Chichu Art Museum, which was phenomenal. And then after the Chichu Art Museum, we went over to the Li Yufan Museum, which was gorgeous. It had this really cool like outdoor kind of, he's a sculptor, very famous Japanese sculptor, painter, does all the things, but the outside featured all of his sculptures, which were phenomenal. Oh my God. I mean, every museum was just so beautiful and so unique. But again, lots of walking, lots of layers were necessary. Got lucky that it was not raining that day. And then we ended the day after the museum because it was Sunday, we actually didn't have reservations at the hotel for dinner that night. And so we were recommended to go to this really, really, really good pizza place. Again, amazing pizza in Japan, and it was phenomenal, and I highly recommend. And we had pizza, and then we were super tired, so of course we just passed out. But I want to show you our room because it was incredible. We had these like James Turrell prints in the room. So if you're a lover of contemporary art and architecture, you absolutely have to go to this island and you have to see this museum. It's incredible. So in the morning, we had a full Japanese breakfast at the hotel in, again, a beautiful space designed by Tadao Ando, and we looked out over the beautiful art. And the cool thing is when you stay in this if you stay in the museum hotel, you can like wander around the museum after hours. And so after breakfast, we just kind of like looked at some of the museum. I mean, we looked at the museum in greater depth later in the day, the indoor and outdoor spaces. And there's so many spaces and so much incredible art, like incredible art. I'll share again, if you want to see more details, you can go over to my dedicated art channel, but such incredible stuff. But it was so cool to be able to just like wander around the hotel kind of in the off time and see all the art. It was really peaceful. Another very famous piece, there are actually two Yayukazama pumpkins on the island. This one is the most famous, and we could see it from our hotel room every morning, which was again just unreal. Like, I'm still just like pinching myself from how incredible this trip was. But the other cool part about being in this hotel is that we could just walk out to where the pumpkin was in the morning when no one was out and about. I mean, it's still Japan, so like even in the height of everyone, like tourists coming on the island during the day, everyone would stand in like a perfect little neat line and like wait for each person to take photos with the pumpkin, which was so sweet, and I just loved it. So even if we went, you know, during peak hours, like during the day, it would have been fine. But to be able to go out at like 6 in the morning and take photos and see the pumpkin just on our own was also like really, really special and really, really cool. So yeah, God, there were just like so many incredible things. We also headed over to Teshima at one point because which is a totally separate island. It was like very rainy and very dreary, but it was really beautiful. We did get to see this gorgeous museum there as well. But that was kind of all we did, is we saw the museum, walked around a little bit, and then came back to Naoshima. So most of our time was actually spent on Naoshima, which is why I'll call that out. But on this day, I wore my cotton pants, black t-shirt, Birkenstocks, totem sweater. I would love to give such a shout out to this sweater again. I ended up wearing this sweater a ton on Naoshima because the temperature was fluctuating so much, but it wasn't that cold necessarily like Kyoto, where I needed the bigger, thicker, chunkier sweater. And so I loved having this lightweight silk cashmere blend sweater just in my handbag, and it's small enough to just kind of bundle it up and throw it in the handbag, which was great. And so this sweater was a lifesaver, but I just went for honestly kind of an all black, very comfortable outfit because I don't know about you guys, but like towards the end of a long trip, I just start getting so tired. And so like, I just want to be comfortable. I just want to be easy breezy. Like, we're on an island, it would get warm in the middle of the day. So this was a great outfit for me. Those cotton pants I absolutely love. The third day of Naoshima, we went to the Seaside Gallery, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's this gallery of sculptures like right by the ocean, and there's also this little pier that you can walk out on and see the ocean, and then also see sculptures by the ocean on this beach. It's just so... yeah, I just feel like I'm just going to insert the video because I could just talk about it all day long, but it's just really, really, really incredible. And then at nighttime, we had French food at the French restaurant in the hotel, which was absolutely stunning. And it's a very beautiful restaurant, you know, multiple wine courses, beautiful dinner. So I wanted to look dressy. I wanted to look, and it was kind of like our last little night together of the honeymoon. And so we had like a little drink before at the lounge. And so, but again, I'm also tired and I wanted to be comfortable. So I kind of reconfigured this dress from Dish that I actually got a ton of wear out on my trip, which I'm so glad, because actually pretty much everything I bought from Dish I wore throughout this trip. So this is a 100% silk, beautiful polka dotted dress, and it was so great for dinners at night or just having like a drink in Tokyo at the Edition bar. And so I mostly wore just the dress with like a cardigan throughout my trip, especially in Tokyo. But by the time I got to Kyoto, I kind of wanted to like shake it up a little bit. And this is a tip that I have for traveling with a maxi dress, and why I love maxi dresses is it's very easy to just revamp the whole outfit and make it look like a completely different piece of clothing by wearing it as a maxi skirt. So I did this a lot in Paris last year with my Totem cashmere maxi dress. I kind of dressed it down with like a t-shirt to make it look like it was just like a maxi skirt, and then dressed it up with the matching shawl and whatnot. And I did the same thing with the polka dot silk dress, and I think it's super effective. I love this look. I felt so sophisticated but comfortable and sexy. So I wore the polka dotted dress, but I wore my black COS sweater over the top, which was also perfect because it did end up getting really cold on our last night. It kind of rained and then everything cooled off a little bit. So that was nice and cozy. And then I wore with my Jeffrey Campbell mesh ballet flats that I love because they're very dainty, so they pair well with something like a silk dress, which is more feminine and light. I think like a heavy, chunky shoe would have looked kind of awkward, even though the sweater is really chunky. And then I wore my little Savette bag, which I absolutely love. And it was just like the perfect little clutch. And it was so much fun because we had like the drink before dinner. We had amazing dinner. Again, we got to kind of wander around the museum after hours and see this exhibit, which normally would have been closed that day, but we kind of got to see the behind the scenes of it. So it was just so much fun, kind of like night at a museum situation. So yeah, that brings us to really the end of my Japan trip. I know that was I feel like I just splurted out everything quite quickly, but hopefully that painted a really nice picture for you all of what we did and what I wore. I honestly feel, even though I messed up a little bit in terms of researching the weather, and I brought a couple of dresses that were definitely for much warmer weather than actually there was, I feel like I still did a pretty good job in terms of packing, and I honestly wore basically everything that I brought multiple times, except for just a couple dresses. So I think I did a good job. So I think this video is a good resource for what to pack, what to bring if you're going to different parts of Japan. So I hope that this was helpful. But of course, if you have any questions or just want to say something, let me know in the comments and I will try to get back to you all as efficiently as possible, and I will see you all in my next video.